Hey, it's Joey with Imzz Elite. We're back in the shop today with this 2018 Softail Streetbob. We're gonna go ahead and get the big dick exhaust installed. You'll see we already got the OG crash bar installed. So let's move forward. I'll show you how to do it. Alright, first off, you're going to want to take your T45 and your ratchet and go ahead and take this foot peg off. You can see these two button head bolts down here are both going to take the same T45. Make sure you support that foot peg so it doesn't slap all over the place. Once you get those out, just go ahead and set them aside. Let that hang for a minute. Now that you got this hanging on this bike, we're going to use a 1/2-inch wrench. We'll go ahead and remove this brake linkage bolt. On a stock application, you're going to want to use a ratchet with a 3/16 Allen socket. Once you get that foot peg completely detached, just set it aside. Put that bolt aside. If you're running a rear peg mount, you're going to want to go ahead and remove that. Now you want to take your 1/4-inch drive ratchet with an extension and a 1/2-inch drive swivel socket. Go ahead and get up inside the head and remove those flange nuts. Just break them loose at first. Then you want to take a 9/16 wrench, and while the pipe's still on the bike, just to make it easy on yourself, go ahead and break those O2 sensors loose. Alright, now you want to take your 3/16 Allen socket that we use to remove the brake linkage bolt, and go ahead and break these two loose right here on the exhaust mount. There's also two more on the upper side. Most likely you're not going to be able to get an Allen socket on this one, so you'll have to use a traditional Allen key because you can't fit the socket back here without hitting the swing arm. Or you can use a ball Allen socket. You'll have no problem. You'll notice you need to take both of them out at the same, a little bit at a time, because the washer that's attached to the bolt will start pushing on the heat shield and it won't want to come off. Now we can go back to our 1/2-inch swivel socket. Go ahead and remove the flange nuts completely. Maybe. Now that everything's free, everything should just pull right away from the bike. You'll have to reach up in there and pop those flanges down off the studs. Don't forget your O2 sensors are still attached, but we already broke them loose, so you just want to safely twist these out without breaking any of the wires. Let's go ahead and get rid of this stock exhaust system. You want to take your T45 on a ratchet. Go ahead and break these 2 Torx bolts loose. Oh, come on. This bolt's damaged. The Torx head was stripped from someone putting in the wrong size Torx before, maybe one size down. So they had chewed it up a little bit. So I just had to take the correct size Torx and line it up with the notches and hammer it in on the back side of the ratchet. And then go ahead and break that bolt loose. Now that you got them both loose, you can go ahead and just remove that stock exhaust mount. Now that we got our exhaust set aside on the ground, you want to flip it up. Just take your flanges and kind of push them back as far as you can. Sometimes these snap rings may be stuck up inside of the flange. If you just get, you'll notice one side of the flange, the snap ring has a split in it. If you can get a flat tip screwdriver up underneath the split, you can pry it up out of the flange if it's stuck in there. And you're going to take some snap-on snap ring pliers. That's what we're using today. It's going to be part number SRP4. You just line up the snap ring with the little dimples in the tool and spread the snap ring out to get it up over. Once you get the snap ring off, the flange will come right off. And we're going to save both of these. And we're going to use those on a new exhaust system. You'll notice you might have to loosen up the heat shield on your old pipe to be able to get to it. You just take a flat tip screwdriver or a 5/16 socket, you'll be able to just loosen up these worm gear clamps a little bit. That'll give you a little bit of wiggle room to be able to get this flange out of your way. You take your snap ring pliers again, pop the snap ring and the flange. Alright, now we're going to take our flanges that we pulled off our stock system, just do everything in reverse. Doesn't matter which head pipe you start on. Do the flange first, take your snap ring pliers, center it over the head pipe. soon as you get it split, spread out. Just wanna try to push it down. Should fit right inside that flange. Go ahead and grab our other head pipe. Same steps. Flange, snap ring. Next thing we want to do, after we get those collars and snap rings on the head pipes, we're going to want to take this side cover off. Now on this bike he's running Imzz ARP bolts, but we're going to, on a stock one you would need a 532 Allen or Allen socket. We'll go ahead and just remove those real quick. And on the number one, the O2 sensor is already accessible right up front, so you just go ahead and unplug that and pull it out. They're both the same length on the Softail, so it doesn't really matter if you end up mixing them up. And so we don't damage them, we already have adapters installed in these head pipes from 18 millimeter down to 12 millimeter. So we'll go ahead and throw these O2 sensors in here. This way we don't damage the harness. I'm trying to do it with them still on the bike. You just take your 9/16 wrench, snug them down. You do that on the number two also. Now that we got those both attached, starting with the number two, we're going to go ahead and take the two flange nuts and the extension with the swivel socket that we used to remove earlier. If you preload one of these flange nuts in there, like so, you can line up your flange with your head studs. Once you get that lined up, you take your extension, carefully get that up there, and you can use it somewhat like a screwdriver or a nut driver just to get that first flange nut started. And take another one. And just carefully get it started. Once you've gotten that started, you can leave it hanging there loosely. I'll take our number one. Basically do the same thing. Another flange nut. Once you get your flange matched up to your head studs, now the second bolt's a little tricky since you got to come from the bottom side. Come up under the head pipe. And if you sight down right above the oil cooler, you'll be able to see the stud. And you can line the two up. Once you're lined up, just give it a couple spins if you can. Might help to put the socket on, or the ratchet. If it's easier, sometimes you can get in here by hand to get this last one on the number one. Sometimes the flange fights the swivel. Now we've got the head pipes started loosely. Let's go ahead and get our new mount. And the two 3/8 ARP bolts that come with it. And those are gonna go right in the same location as your stock mount. Now you got these 3/8 ARPs started by hand. Take a 12.38 socket or wrench and go ahead and just run those down. Now I want to take our muffler, keeping the tab on the back side of the mount. Go ahead and start working those head pipes into position. Now we got that bottomed out in the collector. Take our 3/8 ARP with an ARP nut. Just get that started by hand. You want to take a 3/8 wrench and a 7/16. Go ahead and tighten that nut down. Once you cinch that up, we're going to take our 1/4 inch drive ratchet with the 1/2 inch swivel. Go ahead and evenly torque down all of our flange nuts on the head. Now I want to take our springs, and I'm going to use a pick, but you can use a pair of vice grips or a good set of pliers that'll bite down on the springs. What you're going to want to do is take your lower spring first. It's the hardest to get to. And let it dangle back there and hook the catch with the spring. And go ahead and take your pick and just loop it right through the eye of the spring. And pulling back and using your finger to push down at the same time, you can hook. We're just going to repeat it with the other spring. Here you can see a little better. Just let it hook. Now we're almost wrapped up here, ready to rip. All right, first we're going to take the 5/16 bolt, the replacement that comes in with the exhaust, slide that with the washer through the brake linkage. And we're going to add our spacer. And then you're going to want to take your whole peg assembly and run that right into the foot peg. With a 1/2 inch wrench, we're going to take that torque it down. Now that we got that torqued down, I want to take our replacement button head bolts, just push them through the foot peg, and then pop the spacer that comes with the exhaust right over the bolts. You'll see that the spacer aligns perfectly with the peg. So you just slide it right over the bolts and then the profile will match the shape of the peg mount. You just want to push that up into position. You may have to articulate the brake linkage to get it to line up. And then you want to take 3/16 Allen and go ahead and get those replacement button head bolts started. Now that we got them started, we'll go ahead and torque them down. We'll get this foot peg reinstalled. On the old one, your passenger peg was mounted on the exhaust mount. Now you'll notice we'll just move it up. There's already another bolt location on here. Now I want to plug in these O2 sensors while we got the side cover off and get this number 2 one in. Just go ahead and push that back on till it snaps. Get this side cover popped back on. Just pop the rubber grommet back on that little stud there. Your number 1. It's out in the open still, so just go ahead. You're probably gonna have to reach up from the bottom and support the other half. To get that clicked in, you're all done.
Say something.
Fucking let her rip, man. I just want to listen to this thing.
Speak it loud.
All right. If you make it so weird, like I'm supposed to yell it in here. What am I supposed to say? What the fuck am I supposed to say before I start?
Let this bitch sing.
Well, you fucking made the exhaust. You don't have anything to say about it? I hope it sounds good.
I mean, I know it sounds good.
Well, do you? Do they? Fuck. Tell them. Get ready for this.
Come on, hit the show.
I'm gonna fucking let this bitch rip.
Nice. Let's hear it outside. You want to say that?
I don't think you want to say shit.
I don't really. like the best day for you to stop by while we're filming. In-house sponsored rider here.
And just started up after a couple minutes.